So, let me officially say welcome to everybody here. I'm glad you're here to listen to my friend Meynell. It's it's always a pleasure to have you in our school. Maybe it's, I don't remember, the 8th, 7th time you're here in Greece, in our school, in Dorothy Snot. Yeah,
about the 8th time.
About the 8th time, yeah.
About the 8th time.
So there's a great story of how I met him, but I will not say that again, I've said so many times. But the first time he told me, I talked to him about our school, he said, this is bullshit, you cannot have a play school like this, is bullshit.
I don't use that language.
Anyway, that was the meaning. So, Meynell is a great friend, I love him, we all love him here. He's a play worker, so the first thing anybody, I believe, in Greece is going to ask is, what a play worker? Is like a sex worker?
I'm not going to say what a play worker is yet, because until we actually grasp what play is, there's very little point in talking about being a play worker. So this is a play-based school, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the media at the moment about, well, in England, in the UK, about the importance of play and how important it is for children. But tied in with all those conversations and dialogues and discussions is sometimes a misunderstanding of what play is. So I'm just going to do something. I like doing this because it amuses me. You're here, you've got children, you had a childhood. I'm not going to ask anybody to answer this question, but in your head, if you can actually think what play is, just put your hand up. Not everybody. Okay, put your hands down. So I'm going to follow that up with another question, which again you can put your hand up to. If you played as a child, please put your hand up. Now, thank you. Some of you will know what I'm going to say next. And what I'm going to say next is, how did you know you were playing, for those of you who didn't put your hand up the first time, and say you know what play is? Think about it. You don't have to answer the questions. They're more rhetorical and to get you thinking. We all actually know what play is because we played as children. So those of us who are parents, play workers, teachers, educators, or anybody else who works with children will have an understanding of what play is. But somewhere along the lines of life, a lot of adults have forgotten the fundamental importance of play in their lives. And the fundamental importance of play was about pleasure, enjoyment, sadness, because some play is sad, and the experience. As a child, none of us played so that we could learn something. We played because play is what we do. It just so happens that whilst playing, we learn lots. Because play is a wonderful way to learn. And that phrase, that understanding, has become confusing for people. Because now we have teachers saying, oh, not here, by the way. We have, or maybe some of them, but they'll learn. We have people saying, well, if play is how children learn, let me set something up that they will play with, and then they will learn this, this, and this. But of course, what the children are doing is engaging in an adult-led activity or program. And that is not play. Because for it to be play, the child needs to be in control of the content and intent of what they are doing. Yeah? It's their play, their chosen way of doing things. They've chosen it completely independently because that is what they want to do. Now, one of you might decide to be argumentative and say, but hey, sometimes I've seen the children playing and that child is telling that child what to do in the game. Yeah, but that's slightly different, isn't it, from an adult setting out how we're going to play. because that's about the children negotiating the rules, reasons, and experiences they're going to have together. So it's absolutely fundamental that when we think about play, we realize that children play because that is what they are choosing to do, and they're not doing it because the teacher's going to give them a reward at the end of it. And so what we're constantly striving for in our work with children is to provide an environment in which the offerings of the environment, the space they're in, give the children the most opportunities possible in order for them to play. And that requires an adult who is sympathetic and empathetic. So, where was I going with that? Yeah, I've got no idea either. Trying to identify the importance of play, because that is what is the most important thing. And there is so much around about structuring play. And if it's structured, I just have to keep reinforcing this point. If it's structured, it is not play.
So I will interfere whenever I believe I interfere. The phrase that we use in Greece, organized play, is absolutely wrong. The phrase we use in Greece, free play, is absolutely wrong, isn't it?
That's right. Because there's really no such thing as free play, because that implies if there's free play, then there's structured play. Structured play is actually an activity and not necessarily play. But having said that, let me confuse you a little bit more, if I may. Sometimes somebody else, a teacher, a parent, another adult, will set up something because they think it's play, because they just don't know, and it's an activity. But whilst the child is playing, that child could slip into that mode of play. I hope that made sense in my head. So sometimes when a teacher will set up a structured program, by the way, there's nothing wrong with children doing activities, as long as we're clear that that is not play. Yeah? Children get a lot of stuff out of activities. They will learn through a structured activity, but it's not play. And the majority of the time in this school, it should be when the children are playing, and the other bits just add on. Obviously, as we get a little bit older, we get to pre-K and kindergarten, a bit less play in their lives, because they've got to be ready to go to school, and for big school, or the little school before the big school. I think you call it elementary school here. And for that to work, for the children to be school ready, and there's certain things they need to be able to do. And so there might be a little less play once they start getting to that age. But that doesn't mean that when they have playtime in the yards, that they don't have the opportunity to play, because that should be purely about the play, with lots of resources, lots of materials, lots of excitement and stuff going on, so the children can fully be immersed in their play. Now that word immersed, I really like, because I was watching the class today, I won't tell you which one it was, and because that's what I'm doing here. I go around, I look at the classes, and then I give feedback to the teachers. One of the things I saw today was, at one point, the classroom was very, very loud. Children were making a racket. Kind of they were playing, but they weren't deeply in their play. And then, as they got deeply into their play, the whole room got a little bit quieter, because the children are immersed in what they're doing.
What age?
Toddlers.
2 to 3.
You're just doing that to narrow down which class it was, aren't you? And we have to be careful that when that immersion happens, that we don't do something that pulls the child out of it. So sometimes that means tiptoeing away. Bye, we'll see you in a bit. Go and hide around the corner where you can just keep an eye or an ear on what's going on.
Yeah. And most of the teachers do exactly the opposite. They interfere for a number of reasons, destroying play. Even in our school it happens. That's why we have to. Because it's very hard for a trained teacher to keep away.
It's hard for a lot of people to keep away because we think we know best, and we see some child doing something and go, oh, well, maybe if we do this, it'll enhance their play. And there's this whole thing in early years about extending children's play, but that's not what we're about. We can extend children's play, but we extend children's play by providing the resources that they can dip into, the stuff that they have around that they can play with. That's what's so crucially important for the children, is that they have a wide variety of bits and pieces of every sort. Now, of course, you're all parents. Most of you are parents. And you have nice, clean houses, right? Well, congratulations. When children play, it can get quite messy. Yeah, and a lot of adults are proud of their nice, clean walls. So, the recommendation is, when you have a child, start saving for redecoration. Because children will be messy. I saw something else wonderful today. The felt tips are out on a table. And one child was just picking the felt tips up and writing on the table. They could have got paper. Someone could have told them to get paper. No one did. That child had decided how she was going to play, and that's how she played, and it was fabulous that no one's ordered up to do that. Let me get you some paper. Because that would have interrupted her flow. And I have no idea what she was doing. I don't know whether she was testing all the pens out, but who cares what she was doing? All I know is that that child was deeply immersed in her play, and that was wonderful to watch. Oh, I carry on, yeah?
Feel free to interrupt him anytime you want with comments and questions. But what I find very interesting is that even in a school that really respects play and works in the way Meynell is describing, I believe even the most structured activities can turn into play if we give children the right to do that. For example, our English class, if you attend the way we do English class in our school, Claire does the English class here in Kypseli, may have something in her mind, and then children completely change it. That's fine. But the mindset of the teacher and the culture of the school about it.
I've also seen Claire set stuff up which would really encourage the children to play, and then just let them get on with it, but will remind them they need to be using English. So that's also really, really good. Let me introduce myself, having talked about play. My name's Meynell. I am my full-time recognition is as a playworker, and I'll explain what a playworker is in a moment. But I've been working with children for 53 years now. I am a qualified teacher, I am a qualified youth worker, I am a qualified teacher of teachers, and I am a qualified play worker, and I've done extensive work, even though not formally qualified, in early years settings. And I've worked in a host of countries and 3 continents, only 3 continents. So there's still opportunities for me perhaps to go to Antarctica and work with the penguins.
Meynell, I have to say that the play world is not a big world. Yeah, it's a small world. Okay, it's not finance. It's not. But in the play world, Meynell is like legend because he's more than 50 years in the playground. And what he cannot tell you, he will tell you, but you can understand. He has worked with every great play guy of the 20th century. It's like something. Let's say an IT guy has worked with Bill Gates and Zuckerberg and the other guy at the same time. We don't like it.
I don't like to boast about that, but they've all been my friends along the way, so there's the boast. Even the ones who are dead, no, they're not my friends anymore. But their voices are in my ears. And I don't always agree with them. We don't always agree. People don't always agree, because there is more than one way of thinking about things. But the commonality about play is it's about what the children do. Around the world there are a number of places called adventure playgrounds, and the playwork movement started with adventure playgrounds. They work with a whole range of ages. I work at a playground in Hastings in the southeast of England. I'm the manager there. That work is with older children, so it's with the 8+. But the respect for the child, the approach to play doesn't vary. On my playground we also have a preschool, and preschools are inspected. I don't know if there's an inspection regime.
Yeah.
There is an inspection regime. Well, ours is called Ofsted, and they're known for being mean, nasty and horrible. So whenever you get the call saying Ofsted are coming, everyone panics. Ofsted came, and within an hour of being there, she'd made the decision that our preschool was outstanding, which was wonderful. It's an outdoor preschool. Children are outside. We have a forest, and they're outside year-round. They just have to wear the right clothes, and it's full. It's only small. It's only 40 people, but it's full because it has such a good reputation. Because what are they offering the children? They're offering the children the opportunity to play. And whilst preschools are very important on looking for the developmental goals, what they do is observe the children playing, and from that we can work out what the developmental goals are, rather than setting up an activity which the teacher calls play in order for the children to meet a certain objective.
I think it's interesting to explain here. People, Ofsted is the English. I don't know what the initials mean, but the English Ofsted is the let's say the authority that evaluates all English schools, and they're very. I mean, parents love it. The teachers hate it, right? But what's very interesting to understand, for someone to understand, is that Ofsted evaluates all the school based on what the school said. So Ofsted, for example, evaluates Summerhill, which is not a school, it's a camp. I don't know, you might call it, but it's not a school. But at the same time, Ofsted evaluates the most, let's say, strict school operating under the Queen's royalty, right?
Yes. And Ofsted is there for a purpose, and make sure you're doing all the things right. But the important things for inspection are have you got good safeguarding? Are the staff well trained? Are the staff motivated and happy? Because if your staff aren't happy, who's that going to hit? It's going to be the children. So professionally, I'm a play worker. So play workers are those people who work to support children's right and need to play. So there is the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, and within that, Article 31 talks about the rights of the child to play, because it's important. Unfortunately, Article 28, which talks about every child getting a primary education, gets all the money, and the right of the child to play is kind of subsumed along the way. But you might say, what does a play worker do? Well, if I'm there to support the rights and needs of a child to play, I will do whatever I need to do so that children can play in the way that we just talked about, play being, which is about the child being in control of the content and intent of what they do. So sometimes that means I talk to children, but the problem with talking to children is if I'm talking to children, then they're not playing, right? So you have to be careful about that. Sometimes it means I have to talk to their parents, because that's a situation rarely isn't. But what I don't do, and the school will be different here, is I don't feed back to the parents as a play work about what the children do, because that's between me and them. And that's that unwritten confidentiality, which ties into the whole respect thing. Carl Rogers, anybody heard of Carl Rogers? A few people going, yeah, I've heard of Carl Rogers. Was Carl Rogers a psychologist or a therapist? Tilia? You don't know. Carl Rogers came up with the phrase unconditional positive regard. And that is the way we hold children. We hold children in unconditional positive regard, which means we respect the child. Now, you know, as I said, working with the older children. Oh, question.
It does ask for translation for this in English, for this in Greek. So say it again.
Carl Rogers.
The positive result, what you said?
Unconditional positive regard. So that means.
Yeah, do it. Θετική, ναι, βλέπεις τα παιδιά με ένα θετικό τρόπο, δεν το βλέπεις με αρνητικό, δεν εστιάζεις στον αρνητισμό της κατάστασης, που στην Ελλάδα είμαστε πολύ καλοί στο να εστιάζουμε στον αρνητισμό της κατάστασης.
And in real terms, that means that we respect the child. We respect the child almost regardless of what they do, which is sometimes really hard, because sometimes you get a child who just really pisses you off. And sometimes there are adults who so it's really, really tricky, because my job is to have this respect and regard for the child. Sometimes the child does something that I just find really, really annoying, and yes, what do I do? What do I do when that happens? On the one hand, I move away from that child, so that child can continue playing, because sometimes when children play, they do things that we adults are not comfortable with. And what I like to say when I'm delivering playwork training is, we have a three-word response to that, which is get over it, because it's about their play. And if we understand and believe what play is, then if the child starts to do something that we find difficult, and we all have different triggers. Yeah, every single member of a staff team will have a different trigger, different experiences, because we are made up of the experiences we've had through life. And those come into our work. And sometimes children do things that trigger us. But we have to remember why we're there. We're there in support of the child's, in this place, both their play and their learning. So we have to deal with the things that we're not comfortable with. But sometimes a child will just annoy you so much that you just want to get rid of them. Not literally. Right in my playground, the 8-year-olds, I can send them home. You know, dealt with it, come back the next time, and you know, everything is fine. Because the moment you walk through that door, the past is history. Because I am there to support and provide the offerings for you to play. Because that is the singular, most important thing. I have to get a drink.
So why don't we take some time to talk about the conditions for play to be play? Free chosen, non-directed, intrinsically motivated. Yeah.
For play to happen.
Yeah.
The adult who's controlling the space needs to lose control of the space so that the child is able to play. If I'm there, if the adult in that space is saying, oh, you can't do that, or if there are two children, there's a bit of a conflict and the adult steps in immediately, well, where are the children going to learn to sort it out? Yeah. I don't know where you all grew up, but I'm sure that there are times when some of you were playing on the streets or in forests or parks. You know, yeah, adults may have been there, they may not have been there, they would have been there, especially if you were little. And you got into a little argument, a disagreement with one of your friends, and you may even have hit them, or they may have hit you. But somehow, you'd have worked it out together without an adult coming over and saying, oh, you shouldn't have done that. Now go over there and say sorry. God, I hate that. I hate it when adults say, go over there and say sorry. Because you'll say sorry, but you don't mean it. Yeah, I'll do what you say and I'll just go on with life. Subtext of a child. But it's also so much about the environment. So Tilia and I have both been in both the Dorothy Snot schools, and Tilia is looking at the outdoor environments and how children are able to play, what resources and materials are there for them to play with. Is there enough so that children can play in every way imaginable? Because play is not just about running around with what we call locomotor play. It's not just about running around, it's not just about being physical. Yeah? When children play, they tell each other little jokes and little stories. Sometimes they're rude. But that's their way of working out what works, what doesn't work, what is acceptable, what isn't acceptable. Sometimes when children are playing, guess what? They will use the words they've heard mummy and daddy use. Just saying. And sometimes, language at home can be a little bit colourful. Maybe not the language you want to hear from your child, but they hear everything and they absorb everything. And then they know that they can't use those words at home because you've probably told them. Oh, I've got a great story about my little one. I don't know if I can say this story. Am I allowed to use rude English words? Okay, so, Thanks. She was sitting in her chair, eating a piece of melon. She must have been about 3 years old. She was eating a plate of melon, and a piece of melon fell on the floor. And she looked over at the side of her chair and goes, for fuck's sake. Because she'd obviously heard her mother saying that. Or her sister. And she doesn't know it was wrong, or she does know it's wrong. And, children will work these things through. But they'll also use that language in their play. We call that communication play. It's about talking to other people. It's about making up funny rhymes, which of course at 2 years old is very different than a 4-year-old, because things change very rapidly in that age. They grow up so quickly you just get miserable. Oh, can't I have my little one back? She was so cute.
So the first, let's say, condition is that children freely choose what they want to do without our interference, right? That means, for example, that if the parents of our school, that you use this kind of, the class dojo, this application, and you see the pictures, and if you see your kid, all kids, doing something here, and your kid being in the corner, doing something with the Legos, don't think that this child is cornered, or this child does not have friends, or this child is being neglected by the teacher. It's playing. He or she is playing, right?
Yes.
Thank you. He will say always yes what I say because I pay him.
Go on.
Based on that, I was just thinking that a lot of the time parents don't truly understand what a child is doing when playing. I remember, like when I was younger, me and my friend were playing like with our dolls, and the concept that we had created was that our dolls were enemies, and they were fighting. And we were saying nasty words to each other and we were getting heated, but we knew it was play. And I remember my mother coming in the room, she was like, stop fighting right now, what are you doing? And we were like, no, it's not. We're friends, it's play. And it's so interesting that adults really understand the boundaries of play.
I like to teach people what I call the 3-step rule. I learned this in Sweden from early years educators. If you see something happening in front of you that you're not comfortable with, bring in the 3-step rule. And the 3-step rule is this: 1 step backwards, 2 step backwards, 3 step backwards, stop and look. And then, and only then, when you've moved away from the situation, can you make the decision whether to step in or not. And most times, as I said before, if we don't leave children to resolve things, if it's our agenda that we're monitoring children with rather than where the children are, if we're not observing what's going on, then how do we know that our intervention is the right thing to be doing at that time? Because it isn't, because we interrupt the flow of the play. And we don't want to interrupt the flow of the play because the play is everything.
I would also like you to say some things about the condition that says play should be intrinsically motivated.
Intrinsically motivated.
Right.
Play comes from within. Yeah, it's my brain engaging, making me think, and it's coming from within me. No one's bribing me. I don't have a reward at the end of it. Oh, that's really interesting, because one of the questions I was asked in advance of today's, my computer's going to turn on. I was asked this question. Can't read without this. Not a question per se, but would love to have a discussion in regards to gamification in all aspects of adult life. Seems to be a trend that is getting more and more traction. In which way can we empower children to discover their own, well, that's kind of like separate. So gamification. Is it there? I made notes. Yeah, I got it. Oh, I just lost it. Put it back. Gamification is it's nothing to do with games, really. It's like, when you're at school and the teacher had up a star chart, and if you did well, you got stars. So, who here uses Duolingo? Yeah? So there's streaks in Duolingo. It's motivation to keep going. There are other things like MyFitnessPal or Nike Run Club. For those athletes amongst us, you get progress tracking and social sharing. It's all gamification is about doing stuff to motivate you to do things. So I've got a whole list of different ones. They mean absolutely nothing to me. But the essence of gamification is it's an external motivation for you to keep engaging with that particular thing. Not really good for children. Because if children are just playing, I'll get told off for that one later. It's okay, we sit down afterwards and we debrief, and it's wonderful. If children are playing, then they're playing for what they're doing in the here and the now, without regard to the future. They're not playing to learn skills. In fact, someone did a wonderful piece of research and said, what is the purpose of children playing? And the purpose of children playing is to become better at playing. And I thought that was Wendy. I thought that was quite an interesting piece of research, because there's no purpose. There's no obvious purpose to children playing, but we know that when they play, they're going to get so much out of it. So
this is a major issue in Greece. I mean, last November there was a big conference also organized by, I don't know, Ministry of Defense or something, and the title of the conference was "Το εκπαιδευτικό παιχνίδι," the play that educates. Which is bullshit. I mean, the whole conference happened in Athens. So many people wasted their fucking time talking about the play that educates, which is bullshit, because we don't play to learn. We learn to play, and this is the basic.
that's my line.
Thank you.
There's so much about play, so much I love about play, and go on. So. Okay, so this is a hands up question. Do you remember a time when you were playing where you hurt yourself? How much fun was that? Quite, it's not always about fun. People, okay, percentage-wise, probably most of the time it is fun. It's fun and it's enjoyable. Those two things are different. Fun is in the moment. So, and enjoyable is the reflection on the experience. I'll give you an example of that. Have you ever been to a funeral? You ever come out of a funeral and go, that was fun? But have you come out of a funeral and go, that was enjoyable? Yeah? And that's the difference. And I mean, your question provokes a thought for me, which is, sometimes when the play is no longer fun and enjoyable, it stops. So sometimes children don't want to push it too much. But I got a wonderful example of some, I think they were 5-year-olds at a club I was running, and the analysis afterwards, they actually wanted to experience what giving and receiving pain was like. These were two best friends, and they had a fight. Yeah? Not brought on because there was anger or anything like that, but because they wanted to find out what it felt like, which is what we call deep play. So they're scrapping and they're wrestling, and one child falls down, the other child sits on top of him, punches him in the face. And then he said, "Did that hurt?" And the child goes, "No, that didn't hurt at all." Poof! "Did that hurt?" No, that didn't hurt." They carried on until one of them got a bloody nose. Interestingly, this is just a side, so this was the same day as an Ofsted inspection. So the Ofsted inspector is standing next to my staff member saying, "Are you okay with this?" And Lynn goes, yeah, this is what's going on. They're best friends. We know this is not anger, so we're going to let it play out. And it did play out, and it finished. And then, after the nosebleed was dealt with, they got back together, and the one who'd been lying on the floor first said, "You know what, when you asked me if it hurt," I said, "No, it didn't." It did. And the other one goes, "Yeah, the same." And then they went off and did some other play. Yeah, but if an adult has stepped in, that really interesting experience for them, from which they learnt so much, would never have happened. So sometimes we don't want to step in too quickly, but we also don't want children to hurt other children, or indeed themselves. So it's a very careful balance there. I'm not suggesting that you all go home and you get your child and their best friend and go beat each other up, see what it's like. I'm not suggesting at all. I'm saying that's an example of something that happened. In a school environment, I would expect that it would be stopped a lot sooner than other environments. But you may also have memories of yourself of doing that with a friend somewhere in your childhoods. You wanted to ask a question?
Oh yeah, before about the purposes of play. A lot of the time, it might not be their desire to play. It might stem from
Maybe you should give him a microphone so everybody can hear.
I can speak louder.
Use the microphone.
I think sometimes the desire of children to play maybe comes from a need to connect. Maybe they don't like the game that is being played right now, but they just want to connect with the other kids, and they ask, "Hey, can I play with you?" Like, I see that happen.
Children have a whole range of different ways of asking to join in something. in our work, we talk about the play cues. There's a whole bit of theory called the play cycle, which looks at the way the play develops. And children give out cues about joining in. I've been watching one child here who keeps on cueing other children to play by hitting them. And I don't think anybody else has noticed that he's actually asking to join in the play or is asking another child to play with him. Because his method of asking is not socially acceptable. But that's a difficult one, and sometimes those things are triggered by other stuff that's going on. But I mean, the question is really complicated because children join in play for a host of reasons. Sometimes we have no understanding what those reasons are. There's a book called The Hierarchy of the Playground. So it's talking about children in America and pick up basketball games. Does that mean anything to people? Pick up basketball games. So basically people are playing basketball, and there's loads of kids around the outside. Everyone wants to play, but only a certain number can be on the court. And you know, the little kids aren't obviously playing because the big kids are playing. But the little kids want to be the big kids, they want to join in. And they stand around on the side, if the ball goes out, they rush and they pass it back in the hope that one day there's going to be someone missing and they get their chance. So the whole hierarchy to engaging in and being part of play. And it's complicated. I don't know if I've answered your question at all.
Yeah, you did in certain ways, yeah.
Oh, good. You had got.
The question, about like, is the purpose of play fun? Is the purpose of play connection? These are all parts of play. Children play to connect, children play to have fun, children play to try things out, but that is not the purpose. Play is for play. Play has no purpose, but these are great things that are part of play and are reasons that children might be driven to play. And yeah.
This week she was described by some English colleagues as my external brain. It's great. You know, in many ways she's beginning to know more than me. I hate that. Yeah. You had your hand up.
Do the children want to play with adults? Like, if they are in a group, do they really, truly want an adult to participate in their game? And if they do, how the adult should take place in this?
Along with this question, there is a similar question from the Zoom saying, how can adults play with children without interfering?
Where's that?
From the Zoom.
Ah, okay.
I can say without.
I understand your question. And it's a beautiful question because it's a question of now. So we had COVID, and COVID changed many, many things. And in some ways, it's changed the relationship between the child and the adult. So firstly, a lot of adults, a number of adults aren't comfortable with their children just going off and playing. They want to be there. They're worried about their children. You know, all parents are worried about their children, even when they grow up. Some children find it difficult, especially though, maybe it's the 5 and 6 year olds especially, who experience COVID and the lack of engagement with other children, find it difficult to engage with other children. So the role of the adult there is to step in, help the play to happen, and then, as well as you can, move out the way so the children can continue to play without the adult there. There's a lot of different opinions about this, so I can only stick with my opinion, which is the right one. Children's play, but I remember playing a card game with my mother over and over and over and over again. It was a card game called Can You Go? We played it on a table. I've still got the table. I could not, when she died, I could not let that table go. I had to keep that table. So playing with your parents can help really foster some useful and wonderful memories and have a good time doing it. And there is a space in life for parents to play with their children. Because you didn't have children just to say, off you go. Yeah, go live your own lives, even though you're only 2. You had children because it's a family. Families do things together. So, in that context, playing with your child is wonderful. But for example, if you're doing a jigsaw, you're an adult, you know how to do a jigsaw. You find the corners, you find the straight bits. Let the child maybe support them a little bit. Yeah? Oh, when I do jigsaws, I like to find the corners first. And then I find the straight bits. And then I try to put them together. Yeah? But don't do it for the child. Yeah? Follow the child's instructions. You do what the child is asking of you, rather than trying to direct their play. Because you're joining in their game. There will also be times when you might decide to say to the child, come and let's go and do this. Because you're trying to do something specific. So hand up again. No, sorry, just stroking your nose. Sorry, can't see that far. You did put your hand up.
Following on your questions. Following your question, there are some adults, unfortunately my husband has one on the phone call, he's one of them, that enjoy play like little children. I always say that I make him a little brother. There are some adults that really enjoy. You can see that they fight like children. They have all this fun and energy, and they hide. And so if something like this occurs, for example, I don't play so much. I'm much more bored. But there come times when I want to wrestle with my little one, and then it's fun for me. It's instead of fun for him. So is this play?
That question was far too long to me to remember at the beginning of it. But, thanks.
When an adult has as much fun as a child, can this be, and they have this connection, can this be considered as a legitimate play?
Where is the child in this is the question you have to ask yourself. Yeah? If the child is merely the plaything of the adult, then I would say the adult's having fun, but and the child will be having fun, but it's not play. Yeah? Nothing wrong with that. Let me be clear about that. There's nothing wrong having fun with your child. Yeah? When my eldest was little, we decided as a gift for her having a little sister was that she would go horse riding. I got to go horse riding with her. We had such fun. Yeah? Now, it's not entirely what you're talking about, but kind of like gives you the indication it's okay. Yeah? As long as the child, like any of us, sometimes you go somewhere and you decide, oh, have you ever been to the theatre and go, this is rubbish, and leave? Or a cinema. You've walked out because I just can't be doing with this. Yeah? Or you know, the ability to walk away is important. So for the child to go, actually, Dad, Mum, Aunt, Grandma, Granddad, whoever, I'm not enjoying this. Even though they won't say that, and to move away has to be okay. Because are any of you going to carry on doing something with a friend or a relative that you're not enjoying? You'll find an excuse and you'll leave. And that's absolutely fine. Now someone else asked a question, which is related to this. I'll come to you in a sec. They asked a question. Not relevant.
But no, I think before getting to the new question, I think a quick rule of thumb, we may say that parents, adults play with children when we're invited to do so. So if a child asks us to play, we play.
But that wasn't what that question was about.
Sure.
What is about adult asking the child to join in their play.
Or it happens simultaneously.
I want to ask you, and I'm intrigued. I will ask you a question I want you to answer. I have a two-seater, you know, my car. I have a small car.
Really old.
Yeah. Anyway, but you know the movie's in the back, so it goes drifting one way or another. So when my daughter was 6-year-old, I got her to go, let's say, for a walk, and then I started driving the car. And Nefeli was excited. And then she told me, said my wife said, Mom, here, Mom, don't tell to Mom, because I could have a lot of issues, but she told to Daniela, and she told him that Mom was fantastic. I was almost out of the car. So I had fun, because I was playing with my car. Nefeli had fun, because it was like a Luna Park. Is that play?
The only way to answer that question... Thank you. The only way to answer that question is to ask the child.
Child was...
We don't know what is going on inside the child's head. We could be looking at them, and we can, their characteristics of play. They could be meeting all of it. But if they're in their head, they're not playing, then they're not playing. But we will never know. We will never know what's inside a child's head until someone lets us wire them up, which I think would be wrong anyway. Don't really want to, maybe fun. It's fun to wire children up and see what's going on inside their heads. But the importance of all of this is whether it's your play, their play, or neither's play, but just being together as an adult and a child and doing stuff together is valuable. But the child has to be able to walk away. The moment the child can't leave what is happening, you've put your child in prison. Yeah?
Following all those three questions, there is a certain kind of play that personally I cannot understand, and it makes me really sad. For example, you told us that we should follow the invitation of the child in order to play. And I remember my nephew a few years ago, he was like 5 or 6 years old, and he told me, let's play war. And it made me really sad, and I didn't know how to handle it. And I questioned, why? War is something so sad. Children are dying, literally. Is that play?
How many of you have a television on at home? How many of you turn it off when the news comes on?
It's never on, actually.
Okay. How many of you look at the news on your phones? Do you think your children don't see it? What's that? Oh yeah. Yeah?
We don't even crush things together. I mean, like a play. We don't even do that.
How many? I will ask another
Let-
question.
let me-
How many Greeks, not Athenians, but Greeks, have guns in their home? Maybe 1 million. How many Greeks have a gun in their home? We only have 300,000 hunters in Greece.
So
And-
let me continue with this because it's a really important question. Children have played with weapons since they first started playing. It is an instinct of humankind. There's a wonderful book written by somebody
By an author.
called We Don't Play with Guns Here. But it actually debunks the myth of not playing with guns. It's a very difficult question that you've asked, so thank you for that. Not really. Because I've seen children in the school, they pick up something. Oh, today, in class, they've got some like plastic building stuff. Child made a gun, started shooting people. So it's current and it's something they're very aware of, wherever it comes from. If your child goes to school, which obviously they do because you're here, then another child might mention something about it in the classroom. They'll see another child doing something. We all have our own values, and part of being an adult is about sharing our values with children. And sometimes children do things or ask to do things that we're not comfortable with. And this is not a get over it answer, because we need to balance our significant discomfort with what the child needs. And there's no simple, I can't give you a simple answer to this question. You need to have a conversation with all the other adults in that child's life, you know, to find out where they've got this information from. Or before even that, one of the things you need to ask the child is, what do you mean by war? Yeah, because it might just be a pillow fight. Yeah. So sometimes our own language can be a barrier to actually understanding. So glad I just thought of that. Our own language can be a barrier to what's going on, and our understanding. Who's got the next question?
Sure. I just want to share an experience that it was really nice. A child gives to another child a stick and say to him, it's a sword. The other child was very small, like less 2 years old, and he turned the stick to a flute. So, yeah, I'm not sure that it's, for sure it's an instinct because it's war is on our DNA, violence is on our DNA somehow. But I think the new generations, the new humans can take different experience, different. I don't know if we can't give to them all this, but yeah, that's true.
Thank you. Loads of questions, one at the front.
So, I thought when you said you were playing with your grandmother, a card game, your mother, sorry, and I've noticed that adults, when we choose to entertain ourselves to play, it's usually through task rewards games with clear challenges and rewards in the game. And very young kids play in a more sandbox way, like a more. And I was wondering if, with your experience, you have noticed at which age this transition happens, because I can see it in teenagers that they play more kind of these games, but I don't know where this shifts.
Let's move on to the next question. I haven't read any academic studies on this, but my experience tells me that there's no set age. It's all about a lot of it is about using digital technology. So the time, because we all know that every time you click on something on your phone, you get a chemical rush in your brain, and the endorphins are kicking in. Sorry, Tim's about to correct me.
I think you're moving away from this question here, but about technology. I think that, so you're talking about card games or board games, football, things like this, that teenagers play a lot more than little children. I think that there comes a point in your growing up that playing in a sandbox and getting messy and just making a mess for absolutely no reason becomes less socially acceptable, and teenagers become aware of that. I think that they still want to play like that, and I think that they still should be allowed to play like that. And as an adult, I love making a mess. I love playing on the beach in the sand. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's a set age, but I think that is part of that reason.
Sorry for going off course there. There is stuff about this. There's stuff about what age is appropriate, what should we do if a child playing what we would think is appropriate for their age. There's a whole theory around unfulfilled play needs. So teenagers quite often be seen to be perceived by adults to be playing with something that's too young for them. But it's not too young for them. It means they got moved on and didn't get the opportunities to have that full experience of playing. And each child is different. So the age will change for each child. I know that when I'm working with my teenagers, they all are at a point of wanting to do different things. So you've got one 13-year-old who does this, and another 13-year-old who's not ready for that yet. So, am I answering your question at all?
Is there something we can do to enable a child through that transition to take play with them for longer, to allow the more sandboxy play to, as you said, it's less socially acceptable. How can you allow it?
Very simple answer to that question. Don't put the baby toys away. Yeah? If they're there and the child wants to play with them, they will. If they're hidden, put away, or anybody says, "What are you doing that for? You're too old," then they won't. Especially when their friends come round. If you have a house that has a bunch of 10, 11, 12-year-olds coming into it, then make sure that you never say to them, "What are you doing?" Because that stops the doing. Behind you is someone who wants.
I had a question.
I know, it's coming.
Thank you. So my question is, if a child enjoys playing alone, do we need somehow to motivate the child to play with other kids as well?
Yeah, hi, my name is Vasilis. I would like to, before the questions coming before this one, I think we were talking about the problem of evil. So I would like to have a question. It's not a question, it's to tap in your personal experience, both you and your daughters. Have you seen any child, on all your years of experience, being evil? Like really evil? Like using violence? Some of you might be shocked about it, but I have read some articles about, being evil is not a trait that comes through societal norms or, being there from the parents, but some children do indicate, early evil
I am going to try to answer this question.
Yeah. How evil do you want to go? Yeah, that's the first part of this question. Are we talking about killing somebody?
The behavior needs to have
What?
a motive, not by accident.
Well, there's
about accidents, but
a historic evil play in England. Bulger. The Bulger children, the Bulger case, James Bulger, was abducted by some slightly older children, taken to a train track and killed. They were playing.
What age?
So 10, 11-year-olds. Children can be evil. No question about it. They were sent to prison, which is evil in itself. But it was them playing at seeing. Well, we don't know what they're actually playing, and some people argue they weren't playing. But there's no other logical explanation for what they did. So children can be evil, but it's very rare in that level. There were some children, 6, 7-year-olds, who I worked with, and there was a new baby in the house. So they got a doll out from where the dolls were kept, and they murdered the doll. It was a baby doll. They murdered the doll. They buried the doll. They pulled it up again, did more damage to the body, buried it again. Is that evil? Or were they? Say again?
I would say that's an expression of jealousy.
Yes, but it could also be perceived as evil. Would they do it to the baby? Probably not. God, I hope not. I have seen children killing animals. Is that evil? What? You're a vegetarian? You're a vegan? Then you have. Okay, you can get away with that one then. But everybody else who says no, that you can't do that, needs to also think about.
And inconsistency, because
Yes.
we teach them to love animals and then we serve them the
Animals.
bodies.
Yeah,
The animals. So
I'm with you.
thank you.
I
I hope you're vegan also. But
Well, I'm with you. I'm with the rhetoric.
okay.
And it's important, but yeah. So where do we say evil is? Is lying evil? Some people would say that lying is evil. You know, we don't want our children to lie. That's wrong. But on the scale of evil, how evil is that? I don't know. Do children have a propensity to be evil? I think it's within everybody. But I think the societies we grow up in, and the morals and the integrity that comes from our parents will stop that happening. Because just because I am such a big thing on play doesn't mean that there aren't other things that we have to do as adults who are raising children. I've got lots of. You want to come back on that?
yeah, just follow up. No. I don't think I can.
Speak loud.
Yeah. So, regarding the evil part, is there a way that we can do via play, cut off that kind of behaviors? We could do, see some kind of things on our children that might be a little bit evil, here and there.
What do you have in mind?
No, I don't.
Okay.
My mind is, the Antichrist and some thrillers that I've seen, horror movies, but it's something like that. The thing is that I read an article about an experiment made. So they gave some children some candies, and they said to them, okay, I will go off the room, and you can eat the candies. But if you do that, Then a gentleman will come to the room and he's going to beat you up. So none of the children ate the candy for about 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, children on the door and then go, around the room and the window. And after 2 minutes and 30 seconds, they all ate the candy. So what I want to discuss with you is from your personal experience. In certain some say that children are tabula rasa. They are born, they're white, they don't have any experiences, they don't know anything of the world.
The uterus experience, the travel experience.
This is a wonderfully complicated question.
The thing is that it's also perplexed with God and stuff like that. Like what is evil? What is evil in itself? But there are some of the parents and.
I don't even know if I can define evil, so I'm not going to try. And each person will have a moral code. You might not know it, but you all have a moral code. And within that moral code will be a boundary between what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And you might classify the not acceptable as evil. In terms of children and their play, they will play out to experience it, the things they're not meant to do. Now, they won't actually do the things they're not meant to do, but they will play it through. There's research around this. It's around recapitulative play. It's about playing through history, playing through the history of your ancestors. And some of that is where war play will come from. Some of that is where that whole testing out boundaries. What can I do, what can't I do? But children grow up within a society, and children grow up within what I would call a sub-society, which is your family. So the moral code that you give to the children is what they will have. And what we probably know from the Bulger case is those children didn't have those boundaries in place. Yes, I'm here to talk about play and the importance of play. But just because I'm saying you have to let your children play doesn't mean you don't have the responsibility for every other aspect of your little one's life. Yeah? If you don't feed them, you're bad. Yeah? But if you don't feed them, they're not going to feed their dolls or their cuddly toys. And there'll be no tea parties. Because that's the way it works out. And I hope I'm making sense. Am I making sense?
Where does empathy come? What we have seen and we have talked about with teachers here in this school is that you teach empathy. You don't dictate behavior. You teach empathy so that they can know how the other person feels along the way, and not before. So.
You've hopefully all read about life-derived learning. So you know that within that one of the principles is around self-regulation. Empathy comes within that. And it's really important. But children learn empathy by seeing empathy. Right? Children are sponges. What they see is what they learn, and what they reflect in their everyday lives. So if we are empathetic with our children, if the adults, the teachers in this space here show empathy with the children, then the children will learn about empathy. At the very beginning, you may have recollected I said that a play worker is someone who is sympathetic and empathetic. Yeah? And that should be the way all the teachers are here.
Also, if the adults in the children's space are empathetic to each other, children will also learn empathy from that.
Feedback.
It's irrelevant, but I want to tell you, everybody, that Delia is homeschooled, right? Never been to a regular school.
So before, I didn't actually have a question. I had a comment for one of the questions that you asked about why teenagers tend to play more closed games like football, where there's right or wrong and stuff, where you win stuff, whereas children play like in the sand and stuff. I remember learning in university, and you tell me if I'm way off or something, that as kids age and they reach those teenage years, because they really want to like develop like a solid identity, because they're one step before like adulthood, their interests tend to shift towards more closed stuff, like where there's right and there's wrong and there's winning and losing and stuff, whereas children need more to like explore the world and be more free. And I was wondering, maybe that could be another reason, adding to those you already said, about why children prefer more free play, like in the sand, where you can do anything, whereas teenagers prefer to play games like football, where if you don't score, you lose. Something. Maybe that could be an explanation.
I do find that interesting, because I wonder how much of that is about society imposing on teenagers, or teenagers trying to fit in a mold. A lot of adults are fearful of teenagers. I know in England, if a group of teenagers gathers, outside the local shops, people cross the road because they're scared of the teenagers. I'm not scared of teenagers. I was once one myself. But people forget that. We also must remember that there are two significant stages in brain development for children. The first is from 0 to 8, 2 to 6 being the real core part of that, in which the brain, the neural pathways, the synapses are being formed. The second largest time of brain development is in adolescence. So after the child has reached puberty, their brains start to rewire again. And it's all very fascinating. How many of you have got teenagers? No one. You have. You've got this joy to come then, the rest of you. Not all teenagers are horrible, but it depends on where you are in terms of your relationship. You build good relationships with your children now, and when they become teenagers, they will trust you, they will talk to you, they will look up to you for advice and guidance. And in that way, they will still hold, in some part of their body, the desire to play. What also really works is giving them a younger sibling. So I have to tell this story. Tina's been away for a while, and she came home a few weeks back. One of the first things she did, we have a 9-year-old, was to get the Brio out and build a train track, because Tilia wanted to build the train track. But the little one just loved it incredibly and just played and played and played and played with it. But that ability, not only a teenager, but that ability to support the play intergenerationally almost is really, really important. But the most enjoyable thing about watching it was the cat, because the cat liked to chase the trains, which was absolutely brilliant. Yes, I had another couple of questions come through on the question request form. I don't know if this belongs to anybody here. Did anybody ask what is the difference between a play therapist and a play worker? That was yours. I know this one, all right? Okay, there are two schools of play therapy. There's the directive school of play therapy, as written up by Lynn Catnack, and then there's the Axline school of play therapy, which I've forgotten what it's called, which is much more about letting children play. So Catnack is about structuring a play environment and the play so that children can be focused on what they're doing. It's very much structured. The other approach is non-directive. Children given toys and stuff to play with, the therapist watches. But in both cases, well, in the Catnack case, it's not really play from where I look at it. And Axline is very much about freely chosen the contents about what the children do and things like that. What is play therapy for? Play therapy is about helping children overcome trauma and well-being issues, mental health, help them not overcome those issues but learn to handle and deal with and support. Play therapists are highly trained and highly qualified. A play worker, on the other hand, is someone who provides a space for children to play and does whatever they can so that children will play. And it has been argued that a play worker doing a bad job could do more damage to a child by interfering with their play, not supporting their play, than a brain surgeon might do in a brain operation. That was a hypothesis presented by a man by the name of Gordon Sturrock, who sadly is no longer with us.
You want to follow up then?
I'm not good in English, okay. I will try to say that. First, I did that question because to understand maybe what's the similarities, not the differences, because okay, I can get differences, the purpose is we're aiming the therapy and the free play, but is there any similarity between play therapy and free play, and how? Okay.
So the non-directive child-centered play therapy of Virginia Axline lines up very nicely with playwork practice. This theory is based on the work of Carl Rogers, which I already talked about, unconditional positive regard. He talked about person-centered therapy. The relationship between the two is that a good play environment for children is as therapeutic as going to therapy. There's a project in England at the moment in a town called Gloucester, where they run what is called therapeutic play work. These are children with severe issues who come in for a period of 6 weeks to this environment, and it's play in all the ways that we describe play, but a real attention to getting it right. So the children have got a wonderful play environment, great opportunities, and staff around who are sympathetic and empathetic all the time. Doing that is very draining on staff, but therapeutic, all play is therapeutic. Yeah? You don't need to go to a play therapist, you just need to provide the right environment for the child to play. If you want to read a book about it, about play therapy, the best one is called Dibs, In Search of Self by Virginia Axline. It's Dibs, D-I-B-S, In Search of Self. You'll be able to find that secondhand somewhere, I'm sure. And it's a very good book. Interestingly, playwork practice is based on a set of 8 principles. And there was a big relationship between those 8 principles and Virginia Axline, who also has 8 principles. Did a whole presentation at the IPA in Calgary on this. Well, should have picked it up at university, because they taught my stuff. So that was one question. Someone else asked a question about beyond child safety. What about age-appropriate labelling on toys on the market? Does this belong to anybody here? No? Should I skip it?
Well, you want to say 2 words about it?
2 words. Should we be discouraged from giving toys intended for older ages to younger children because their complexity is likely to make them stormy? Or will the child in any case find a way to engage or not engage? Give the children toys, see what happens. You know? Doesn't matter what it's labelled. You know? Sometimes a child who picks up a toy that's labelled for an older child will have great fun with it. Might not use it in the way that the manufacturer intended. But isn't that the same for most things? You know? Do you ever take your children to the local play park? You know, swings and slides and things like that? Yeah? How many of your children climbed the wrong way up the slide? Yeah? Wasn't designed for that. Don't let them do it. It's so wrong. Yeah? Children will find ways to bounce the system, because that's what childhood's about. It's about getting out there. It's about finding out things, exploring stuff. How can we support our toddler play with the new baby? Is that anybody's? You want this one? Yeah? There's a book, just buy this book. It's called Baby Just Like Me. All right, it's all you need. So it's a very simple coloured book aimed at children. But the basic of this is the toddler is going to be fascinated by the baby. But the baby is not going to be doing anything. The baby, you know, freshly made baby is boring, except for the toddler who's really fascinated by the baby. So what do? Well, you know, you can get the toddler to be around to help with nappy changing, not by changing the diaper, but by passing it to you. You can say to the toddler, what should we dress the child in now? You know, and as they start to grow and they're playing on a play mat with things over their heads, then you know the toddler can play alongside. But also reminding the toddler that this is young, fresh, and very easily breakable. Hugs and cuddles, carefully supervised, maybe not the first week home. Yeah, but really, but they want to hold them. You have to find a way to make it work. You sit down, here's the baby. Yeah. Hold the baby like this. And never scare the toddler. So the words you use, the language you use, has to be calm and gentle and sweet. So the toddler will be happy, because this is something new. One of the things we talk about in play environments is the bringing in neophilic experiences. Does anybody know what that means? It's kind of like based on a Greek word, isn't it? Neophilia. It's about the love of the new. Children love things that are new, and so baby is new. You know, the toddler's going to want to play. And another question here is how to teach a child to play. Does that belong to anybody? The simplest way to teach a child to play is by getting out of their way, providing the right resources and materials so that they can play, and don't be scared. Go on.
I was just wondering, what are the right resources? I mean, most of us will label
apartments. We don't have really outdoor spaces, for example. And I really wonder because sometimes we think about water, not here, not that. So how can we foster the role of
Let me start with the facetious answer. Go outside. Go for a walk. Drive to the park. Drive to the forest. Can't do that every day. Inside. Well, we've already had the discussion about how you've already started saving so you can do the walls after the child grows up. If you've got a small apartment, it's going to be difficult. There's no question about that. But small world toys, bricks, building blocks, Lego, that's all the same. Toilet rolls, don't throw them out, give them to children. Paint, if you're worried about paint, chunky crayons, depending on the age of the child. You know, start with the big crayons, don't worry about what it looks like. Every piece of art your child does is beautiful. If you're not worried about the paint, water paints, poster paints. Child small brushes, not small heads on the brush, but small actual brushes, so they can hold them and grasp them. Lots of paper. If you're not too worried about, depending on the age of the child, it's all about try things with your child, doesn't work, move on. If you know, paper, flour, makes paper mache. Balloons are wonderful. Then you can get some balloons that actually take quite some time to pop. Yeah? Those sorts of things are all fabulous. Tina's about to tell me something.
Stand up, fill up the sink with water, soap water.
And give them the washing up to do. They love it. Yeah, it's true. And try things out. Life is so great for people with children now because there's the internet. And you can go like, I want an idea that will do this. See, I didn't say ChatGPT. Oh, now I have. I ruined that. Don't use ChatGPT, it messes with your brain. Okay? Just do proper online research. That's the best way of finding things out. And I'm sure you've got some friends. So, they've got a big house. That again, I'm using my cell phone now. Talk to your friends. What are they doing? Form support networks. Chat to parents outside the gate or inside the gate when you pick the kids up at the end of after school. Get ideas from each other. Ask the teachers. What is my child really enjoying? I've seen in the classrooms flowers and magnifying glasses. I've seen, actually I saw some children pretending to be dogs eating pine cones today. It's wonderful. They're all little things that you can do. Water is great, and you can have a mini sandpit at home. Depending on the size of your child. If it's a big child, then you need a slightly bigger sandpit. Do you have a bath or a shower? If you have a bath, well, obviously don't fill it too full with small ones, but you could get some compost and put it in your bath. It will wash out. Ideas, some of which will be, you guys like that man's off his rocker, he's an idiot, couldn't possibly do that. But I have a wild and vivid imagination. So never let, if something pops into your mind, why not? In my professional work, we have what we call the playwork curriculum. Like, can the children play with these things? And we start with the elements. So, you're living in an apartment, you've got air conditioning, it's got a fan, put some ribbons on it. They'll blow in the air. It's a small apartment. Have you got somewhere you can hang a swing? No, it's a small apartment. then get a swinging chair or a rocking chair. Children love them. You know, we've got a child-sized rocking chair. We also have an adult-sized swing hanging up because we put hooks in a steel girder. You know, those are the sorts of. We did it for you two. Well, because you know, be imaginative about all the different things you can do. You know, we talk about air, we talk about fire. You know, you're going, I can't possibly have fire in my apartment. But, you know, IKEA sell those wonderful, nice little star lanterns. You put a tea light in. Yeah. So sometimes you can have that, and of course birthdays and candles. You know, you all do that. You know, we talk about playing with water. We've talked about playing with water. We talk about playing with earth. You know, play with earth. You know, children like to climb and jump. Just as a warning, in the UK, more children go to hospital from injuries from jumping off a couch than they do in a game of rugby. It's true. I haven't made that one up. My stats might be out of date. Music, clocks.
Time with each other in daily life. So I have to do work, I have to do laundry and everything. So I put my child to do all this while dancing, while jumping, and she's 20 months old.
Are your children in the same class?
No.
It would be great if they were. Start supporting each other, but also build networks with other parents. Not so that your children can play together, but so you can get ideas and share stuff with each other. I've done this, it was awesome. Little whatever their name is, loved it. Maybe you'd like to try this. You know, maybe the school should set up a WhatsApp group for the parents. Maybe you've done that already because you're at this level.
Sure. We have this kind of application, Class Dojo. I'm sure you get millions of ideas out of it. But practically what Meynell is talking this time about is actually what we do, that life drive learning is just let your kids play with anything comes from the real world and makes them excited. Anything. Spoons, hard boxes.
Not use toilet paper.
What?
Not use toilet paper.
Why not? Not used one.
Used.
Not used one, but
used toilet paper. It's really weird for us being here because, you know, everywhere we go, you have to put the toilet paper in. We don't have that. You know, our sewers work. It's a really weird experience. Anyway, moving rapidly on. Another question?
A question I should expect somebody to ask, but nobody has asked it, so I will do it. Why should a Greek school is inviting an English play worker 10 years in a row to come and spend time with our teachers and our parents? Huh? No, absolutely not. I believe 95% of the Greek population has no idea what a play worker is.
A bit like England. We're a very undervalued profession.
Only in England and the Commonwealth, I believe, the play workers exist, right?
No, there's play workers, there's masses of play workers in Germany. I'm going to a conference in a couple of weeks' time in the Netherlands. There are play workers in Austria and Switzerland and France and Iraq and Jordan and Brazil. We're growing. Were you going to say something to me?
To add to your answer to a previous question, which we moved on from before I interrupted, the question about how do I teach my child how to play. You could also play yourself next to the child. Like, just let yourself play, sit down on the floor, do something you're interested in. Because some children do struggle to play. Some children don't ever get given the opportunity to play because some schools are not as fabulous as this. so you can demonstrate.
And there's a theory about this which is called parallel play. So it's an early years theory. You sit down next to it's not like scaffolding. You're actually sitting with the child but playing for yourself, which might not be play, but it might look to the child like you're playing. And they look over and they get sparked. I love the word sparked. They get sparked by what you're doing.
So, another question.
I do like questions.
Have you experimented with play work with adults, like see how you can introduce play?
She's just finished the project.
So, with general adults, personally I've not, and I don't think Meynell has either. But last year, in my third year of university, I was part of a project doing play work in care homes with the residents who were living with dementia. And this project was phenomenal. So it was me and some other students and a couple of our lecturers. We went in and we did large-scale games. We had towers of cardboard boxes. We gave the residents bean bags they could throw, because most of them were not very mobile, so they were sat down. But it was using those same approaches of play work of letting them do what they wanted, supporting their desires, respecting them, trusting them to know themselves and their own risks. And the impact that this had on the residents was just completely amazing.
One of the residents who had been fairly non-verbal. And what day of the week was this? Because that's relevant. What day of the week were you going in? One of the residents who'd been pretty much non-verbal go, "Ooh, is it today? Will the van be coming?" And that just, Mike told me the story, one of the lecturers, and it just blew people away. Because that was the impact. And she knew his name. She knew it was Mike. And that just for someone who had been in a care home with no stimulation or no significant stimulation. Does play work with adults? I see no reason why it shouldn't, because it's about an approach. It's about a way of being with other people, and it's about that respect, and it's about giving people the opportunity to be themselves, to do what they want to do in the way that they want to do it, with no preconditions. And that is so important, whether it's whether it's the babies or your grandparents or anybody in between. Everybody benefits from having that opportunity to play, to be themselves. George Bernard Shaw said, "We don't stop playing because we get old. We get old because we stop playing." And I go with that. Look at me. I'm still playing, and I'm really old. Anyone else? Yeah.
So if there's not any last question.
We've got all night.
One last.
Yeah.
It's an incident.
Wait, I can't hear you.
One last, it's an incident from my working place. A little girl said to me, "Everyone has to find out what game they are." Παιχνίδι. In Greek, it has the same root with peso, play. So, she said to me that. And I'm wondering what kind of game I am. And
Struggling to understand that.
Πες τα ελληνικά.
Ένα κορίτσι τέλος πάντων μου είπε στη δουλειά, ο καθένας πρέπει να βρει το παιχνίδι που είναι.
What toy he is.
What toy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but αλλά η ρίζα του παιχνιδιού με το...
In Greek, the word play, toy, game is more or less the same. Maybe this is one of the reasons we don't understand play very well. So the question is that a girl asking, everybody has to find out what toy he or she is.
Physical sense or?
I'm not sure because he has a problem with expression and stuff like that. And the only thing that makes her relief is play.
I think if a child asks that question, you get them puzzled and they go, "What do you think I am?" Yeah?
I asked her.
And what are you?
She couldn't express it because she didn't have.
It's a wonderful question to get from a child. To treasure the fact you actually got asked.
Is it really different than what animal are you or what color are you?
Slightly different, I think, because it's more abstract. It's an abstract thought. I don't know if I can answer. I could tell you what colour I like. I could tell you what animal I want to be. But what toy am I? What game am I? Huh? Yeah, maybe. It's a good question. I'm not going to answer it, but it's something we should all think about.
It's funny because you know his website is Meynell Games, so you practically define yourself as a game.
Well, when he asked the question, I thought I would be a block game. Yeah, because that's what I like. I like to compose blocks. So I thought that's might be the toy I could be. The toy I prefer to play with.
And continuing, sometimes the kids see the adults like toys that they want to take them and put them in their game.
Yeah, that's an important point which we didn't mention. So the children will invite you to play. Yeah? They might invite you verbally, or they might invite you with what we call, what I talked about before, play cues, which is an invitation for you to join in whatever it is the child is doing. To say no is rude. To take over the game is rude. To join in and be instructed by the child, you know, what do you want me to do now? How am I going to do this? What are we doing? If they invite you to join in a game of football, you are not to score any goals.
Bullshit.
She's right.
I'm curious. I currently work at a playground, but like not outside. What's it? Pedótopo in English.
Indoor playground.
Playground, but usually it's in a room, not outside.
Yeah, and like a lot of the time, I go up to kids and I ask, can I play with you? Maybe we can play together and stuff. But also a lot of the time I'm wondering, is it good that I'm asking them, or is it better to just be in the room and wait for them to ask me to join? Like, you know.
Thank you for the question. So my first response is, what is happening in that space that makes you want to ask them if you can play?
I want to get to know them better.
Okay, that's a you issue, not a them issue. And for me, in my work, it's about them. I am merely bystander or observer in their space. If they want to play with you, because you're in that space, they will ask you to join in. Now, asking is not always verbal. So we have to be ready to acknowledge the cues that they're making. Describe your space just quickly.
It's quite small. It has like a kitchen, like Legos, like magnets, uniforms to try on.
Okay. on the whole, if you're joining in with the children, you're going to do what we call, which is adulterate their play. You know, because they will then feel that they have to, some children will feel that they have to listen to what you're saying, because that is what children are used to listening to the adult and doing as told by the adults, which will kind of squash down their own play. Yeah, I would try to stand back as much as you can, but be there so they know they can invite you in. Or if you have the right level of sensitivity and you see a child that's trying to do something but struggling, then it is appropriate to move closer, they might ask you, or indeed to say, do you need any help? Yeah? And if they ignore you or say no, then move on. But sometimes, actually, especially the very younger ones, will say, actually, yes, I do. For the stuff at home, I just thought zips, Velcro, buttons, belts. Belts. Some children don't like Velcros, the sound is wrong. So just try it out and see. And I don't, yes, it's a great question. But the most important thing, if you want to bring more play into your children's lives, is to constantly be asking yourself, how can I do this? How do I keep out the way? When do I need to step in? I've often said that being a play worker is the hardest job in the children's workforce, because we don't know what we're going to do every day. We don't have a curriculum, we don't have an agenda, we don't have an output. So for the teachers who I'm working with here at Dorothy Snot, the balance for them between when am I going to be a play worker and support the children's play, when am I going to be the educator to help them understand toileting, personal hygiene, and all the other things that you have to do, helping children develop the skills to eat, to clean up after themselves. The independence of the children here is fantastic. They have such great routines, such wonderful ways of doing things. So it's a dual role that we're trying to get the teachers here to do. And it's not easy. It's not easy as a teacher to step back, just let the children get on with it. Because you always want to be thinking of that teachable moment. And sometimes we forget that the teachable moment is actually what the children are doing for themselves. And that's where they're going to get that learning.
And now you can, with another question, I will start closing the evening. And I want to say that the reason we keep inviting Meynell in our school, we love it, is that exactly because he disputes everything. He makes us think everything from the beginning. His favorite question is that play? Anytime he may see some kids playing in the class or doing something in the class, he always asks the teachers, is that play? And it's a great question, because in Dorothy Snot, what we say to our teachers is when a kid comes and asks you something, you don't answer him. You ask him, what do you think about it? So we do exactly the same thing with our teachers. Is that play? What do you think about it? And then it's a whole discovery, a whole trip. It's a great trip that starts from this kind of question. So every day, every moment, every year, we try to redefine what we're doing, to go one step further with our understanding. Children are developing. Every year we host in our school new models for children. Every year, every 2 years, children are a new model. And this model has to be observed and has to be really understood. And here is what Meynell is a great help for us. because he makes us think all the time. So thank you, Meynell, for being with us.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. And thank you all for being here. And thanks to all of our friends that were with us on the Zoom.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you were there.
Yeah, you have to have it
Thank
all.
you, good night, thank you very much. Don't forget any more questions, because we can answer them afterwards.
Yeah, you can send any question you want and we'll do it afterwards. Alright, so I hope it was a fruitful evening for everybody. Yep. And thank you for being here. If you have more things to ask Meynell will be here up to next weekend, up to next Saturday. So next Saturday, yeah, he will be 1 week more here. So if you want to ask anything, just shoot it and I will make sure he will answer.
I'm still here now.
Yeah.
Happy to chat.
Io se vuoi